President-elect Trump was able to grow his support among a number of key demographic groups, including Latino voters. Here's a look at the nationwide picture. Trump got 42% of the Latino vote, compared with 35% support he received in the 2020 election. That's according to AP Votecast, and that went a long way toward helping Trump return to the White House. For more now on the significance of that shift among Latino voters, let's bring in Mike Madrid, a political consultant and expert on Latino voters. Mike, thank you for the time. It's good to have you on. So what do you think? Why was President-elect Trump able to achieve these gains among Latino voters?
Well, there's two things to keep in perspective. The first is that this is part of a longer-term generational trend. Democrats have actually been losing Latino voters since the end of the Obama era in 2012. Hillary Clinton lost support. Joe Biden lost more support. We watched more hemorrhaging happen last night. So this is a big problem for the Democrats. And it ultimately comes down to what we call the diploma divide, which is college-educated folks are moving rapidly towards the Democratic Party. Blue-collar, non-college educated voters are moving equally as rapidly to the Republican Party, and Latinos make up the fastest growing segment of the blue-collar workforce. We're also seeing multi-generational Latinos. Now, for the first time, especially in states like California, you're seeing a third and a fourth generation voter that is not very tied to the immigration experience. And when they hear regularly that immigration, especially from the Democratic Party, is a key issue, it's having the reverse effect of actually alienating these voters and pushing them into this economic pocketbook voter, this economic populist place. And Donald Trump represents the most populist candidate in the race and is winning more of their votes.
Yeah, fascinating. I mean, let's stick with the issue of immigration since you bring it up. I mean, obviously, we heard the rhetoric from President-elect Trump throughout the campaign. He promised a much more aggressive approach when it comes to immigration, talking about launching a massive deportation operation in this country. Democrats would think that would be a turnoff to Latino voters. But is there a segment of Latino voters who share some of these concerns that Trump has about unchecked illegal immigration?
A really great question. And let me put that in context by saying that Kamala Harris, for her part, actually ran on the most conservative border security position for a Democrat in the history of the party. She was running essentially on building a wall, cracking down on international gangs, stopping drug flows across from fentanyl on the border, and actually going to the border itself and taking pictures. This is something that Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush would have never imagined doing. That's how much Donald Trump has moved the Overton window on this type of an issue. And the reason why Democrats are having to do it is because Latino voters are increasingly supporting border security positions at the expense of what we used to call immigration reform. The idea that we have got to fix the border first, then we'll have the conversation about immigration reform has really sunk into not just the Republican Party, but deeply into the Democratic Party as well, because Latino voters are demanding that happen.
Yeah, there seems to be obviously a sense here that the Democrats, for some time, as you say, have been sort of taking Latino voters for granted here. So what does the Democratic Party do moving forward? How do they shift their approach to try to win back more Latino voters in future elections?
The first thing is to talk to them like a blue-collar, working-class, voter, which they are. And you actually touched on this on an earlier segment, which is you've got to speak to these voters where they're at if you're going to be able to develop the policies that are going to be able to connect with them. Kamala Harris actually made very significant adjustments to focus home building on a home buying program. 1 in 5 Hispanic men are involved in the construction industry, building trades, an extraordinarily high number. She moved to the right considerably on border security. She supported fracking. She's supporting blue-collar industries where people can actually make a living without a college degree. The problem was she only had 100 days in her campaign to make that adjustment after 2 decades of really bad messaging and losing working-class voters. Kamala Harris just didn't have the time to make up that difference.
Yeah, she needed more time to get that message out to voters, especially Latino voters. Really appreciate your perspective and the insight. That is political consultant Mike Madrid. Great to have you on. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.